mindset to help you move forward on whatever you're working on, whether it's a goal for a business, whether it's a goal personally, or even meant to just help things move forward the way you want them to move forward. Today's topic is one that is coming up like crazy for me right now in my coaching practice. Is so many people are coming to me saying, hey, I need to get organized. And I'm like, okay, need to get organized. All right. So what are you trying to organize? How are you trying to prioritize? And if you're trying to watch this on LinkedIn, I apologize, but it looks like LinkedIn is not working. So anyway, welcome. If you're here live, please do say a hi in the chat, and also give StreamYard permission to know who you are, so I can respond to you directly. But yeah, this I need to get organized. I need to manage my time better. I get this comment so many times, and I hear from people that they're feeling like they're living in this chaotic life. All right, so they're living really like by the seat of their pants almost. And so I ask them, like, so what are your priorities? And a lot of times it stops people in their tracks. Like they're thinking of all the different tasks in their heads. They're looking at their environment and seeing all the different papers and things everywhere. They're like, well, if I just have this organized, life would flow better. In some cases, that's true. If you had, your dinner planned out for the month in advance, sure. Yeah, you'd have that organized. That would be great. But if life is disorganized, meaning like I could have that plan for meals for the month, but I am so chaotic that I don't get to the store for what I need for those meals, and then I miss out on actually following through my plan, then it just feels chaotic. Anybody ever been there? Like they've had a plan and it just hasn't worked? If so, drop "that's me" in the chat, because it's honestly, it's about prioritization first and then organization. If I don't have that priority set, I will not organize very well, right? So the big question here is, first, how do you set priorities, right? Well, I'm going to give you a tool. And again, you've probably heard me talk about this tool before, but this tool is meant to help you get all the stuff that's flying around in your head out. So we're going to talk about brain dumps. And then we're going to talk about, like, what do you do with that tool then? Like, once I've dumped my brain, how can I then prioritize from it? So I encourage people to have a notebook. If you have a notebook, use a notebook and use this regularly. A brain dump, just so you know what it is, a brain dump is where I take and I dump literally everything out from my head onto a piece of paper, including tasks, including goals, including short-term and long-term ideas. I dump out feelings. I dump out weird ideas or dreams that I had that are just taking up space. Okay. Now, once you've taken it, it only takes like 5 minutes. Literally, it takes 5 minutes of your time just to like clear your head. And when you clear your head, you've listed out all the things that are taking up space up there. And a lot of times what you'll see on there are the tasks, the goals, and the ideas that you have either for now or for the future. Okay. So you take your 5 minutes, you write all that stuff down. Now, having your schedule handy helps here, but being able to say, okay, now I have all these things down. What do I do with all of this? Well, prioritize it. And that's where you say to yourself, you check your gut and say, what on this brain dump is most important to me? This is going to tie into your values. This is going to tie into what you really are striving for right now. And you might be surprised. You might see something on that list that is like, oh man, if I could get that done today, I'm going to give myself a high five in the mirror practically, because that'll make me feel awesome. This process then helps you say, okay, I've got my prioritized tasks and goals. Now it's taking that prioritized task and goal and moving it to action steps. Okay. So whether you're a person, and I've recently had a chat with some people about this too, of time blocking. If you're a time blocking person, you can say, well, I'm going to time block for this particular task. Or if you're more of a person that says, I've got to listen to what my mind and focus are doing for me, then it's saying, okay, well, I'm going to put these top 5 for the week and make sure that I have times that I use for those particular tasks. And it's being able to say, I'm going to have a priority list. And when I have that priority list, I can then organize my time around it. Okay. Now for time management, there's a whole nother can of worms here. All right. I can organize my time based on the priorities. It doesn't mean, let me go back 1 second with that, because sometimes people will say that, well, there's tasks on here that are obligations. There are tasks that just have to be done. All right. So those tasks, whether you enjoy them or not, okay, it's going to still be valuable to say, okay, I will make time for this task, whatever it is, whether you enjoy it or not. And I'm going to then make time for something that I do enjoy and that I have passion about right near it. Okay. Example of this is I've had a lot of people talking to me recently too about hating doing laundry. Okay. And it's a need. We need to do it. We need to have clean clothes. We need to come through our life with cleanliness, right? And so what I encourage is start a load of laundry, do something that's on that list that you feel awesome about accomplishing, and then go back and change the loads of laundry, right? It's being thoughtful of like, okay, how do I incorporate those obligations in the priority list and still align with my values and desires? Okay. It doesn't have to be painful. You can tie it in and make it happen. The other thing here is recognizing after I have all these priorities set, and whether you schedule them into time blocks or you just have your priority list for the week or priority list for the day, and I would say still stick to 3 priorities a day instead of making a whole long list each day, because you won't accomplish that. The 3 priorities a day, you can check them off as you go throughout your day then, and where the time fits, rather than having the set schedule, depending on your personality and the way that you like scheduling your time. The thing here with time management that comes in, I've had I need to get organized and I need to manage my time better. Time management, we've got to be realistic with how we use our time. Okay. So with time management, first check into what are your time thieves? What are you spending time on that is not serving those outcomes that you're desiring? Are you spending time scrolling this phone, Instagram? Are you or Facebook or whatever you use? Are you spending time focusing in on those unnecessaries, those things that really don't contribute to the overall plan of your day? It doesn't mean you're not doing self-care time and taking time off. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the time thieves, the things that you're spending time on that's not serving you. And a one-time thief that happened for me recently is I spent a whole extra lot of time on trying to figure out a software issue to get something working right, instead of hitting pause and talking to somebody that knows it better than me. If I had gone and called customer support or called resources in my life that know things better than me, I wouldn't have wasted, it was 3 hours. I wasted 3 hours of my life on something that I didn't need to learn how to do. I could have resourced it out. But for some reason I got caught up in it. All right. Instead of saying that's not my priority. Right. So that's an example. Other examples is sometimes people will say, well, I'm taking a lunch break, and suddenly the lunch break turns into too long of a time where they're scrolling or they're playing a game or they're doing that kind of thing. Those distractions are the second thing. It's like distraction is a huge time thief. So again, things that you're not as resourceful at can be a good time thief, or things that are just distractions. And remind yourself that other people's emergencies don't require your urgency to respond to it. Okay. I want to point that out a few times, because I think sometimes we get a response from someone that they're saying, hey, I need this right now, today, this minute. And their sense of emergency makes us feel urgency around it. And the thing is that it's their issue, not yours. Now, if you can complete whatever they're requesting from you and complete that sense of urgency, and resolve it, then definitely do it. Okay? But if not, if it's not within your capacity to do anything about it, then you respond with a boundary and you acknowledge the urgency and you say, this is when I can complete it. Okay, so that is a real important skill set, is boundary setting around other people's emergencies, because it's not your job. Okay, so hopefully that's a takeaway for you today, is that other people's emergencies aren't your urgency to respond. All right, they're not yours. That's not yours to own. Now, again, you might choose to respond more quickly because then it's off your plate. That's up to you. All right. Distractions, other time thieves, recognize where you're spending your time. Management of time, because we all have the same amount. Remember that. We all have the same amount of time. When you think about managing your time, you want to think about where efficiencies can be developed, and that what you're spending your time on are your priorities and not these other things. All right. So create a time inventory is a really great way to see where you're actually spending your time. It also will help you estimate how you're using your time. Okay. So if I have something on my calendar that I think is going to take 45 minutes, and then when I sit down and do it and I see it takes me 2 hours, okay, that's a moment to say, okay, I wasn't realistic with my expectation here. So now I've got to rethink it. I've got to take a moment and review what it is that I could tighten up, what it is I can do to maybe even get more focused, what influenced the time it took. I can analyze it, really. And then next time when I'm scheduling that same task or something similar, I can say, okay, actually, I really need probably an hour and a half. Okay, and set that up. If I finish it faster than that, awesome. Then I have some time back, right? But if not, then it's being thoughtful of like, okay, maybe this actually does take 2 hours, and I really need to just take the 2 hours and do something about it. Okay, and do something with my time, right? Like make sure that I'm focused on it and that I'm using those 2 hours to efficiently and effectively finish whatever that task is, right? So with time management, a time inventory, where it literally is, you take a blank calendar for a week and you write down how you're using your time. Okay. From the time you get up to the time you go to sleep, you can do every hour. What am I doing during this hour? And I write it down. And I encourage people to do this written, because it makes it visible, number one. In your calendar, if you have an electronic calendar, you don't want to necessarily put that alongside the other things that you already have on the calendar. So if you have a blank calendar that you write down, this is tip number 2, is really being thoughtful, like how am I actually using my time? And if one of those priorities that you're saying I want to get done today, you notice takes longer and longer than you anticipate, then maybe it's saying, okay, how do I spread this priority out? Okay, so that I actually can accomplish it this week instead of getting overwhelmed and not doing it at all. Okay. So these are just some ideas here. Okay. So starting off with a brain dump to get out everything, prioritizing the tasks and goals that are on that brain dump, setting aside time for those priorities daily, and then using time inventory to really see how you're using your time. Okay. So those are 4 tips on how to actually take that statement of I need to get organized into an actionable prioritization process. Okay. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'd love to hear, if you're here live, I'd love to have, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. And again, I hopefully can see who's there, but this is one of those things that's just been coming up so much lately. And I just felt really an urgency around being able to share this with you, because I think a lot of times people just get stuck up here and they don't get anything done. And this is a way to do it. Do that brain dump, get yourself in a place where you can actually say, these are the priorities, check your gut, right? Like, what's most important for me, and set aside time for it, and then check your time. Make sure that you can analyze and how you're using that time. But again, if you have any questions or additional thoughts, please leave a comment below. I'll come back to you next week on Wednesday at noon. If anything does come up, or if you think, maybe coaching would help me with this, ask me. Let's chat about it, because I think this process is one that's so important to not living a chaotic life, but living an organized and focused life. And coaching is a great fit to making this work for you. So if you have thoughts, comments, please leave them below. And otherwise, I will see you again next week, Wednesday at noon, and appreciate you taking the time today to watch this. Have a good day and a good week. See you soon.